It is, of course, for us at CCA, a pleasure to be here, and to be here and to participate to this meeting, this symposium. Of course, architecture and war is a crucial theme. It's a crucial theme today, and I think that the Second World War could help us to understand, not in general terms, but in a very precise and specific way, how our idea of modernity has been shaped, and also some of the first reactions and critique of that. I'm sure that the contribution of today, they will help us to have a new insight view of this kind of problem and theme. I have to say that in a certain way, a lot of things which have been part of architectural and urban thinking after the Second World War, they've been shaped in the light of a general idea of modernity, progress, technology, which is deeply related to the Truman speech of 1949, in which he was referring to the technology as the tool for a continuous progress, which was humanity after the war could have faced. And I think that most of this contribution today would help, I think, to look at that in a different way. This is one of the themes that CCA is developing work. You know that we have some programs from exhibition to grants in the study center, which are more and more related to some general investigation that we are developing in Montreal, the Canadian Centre for Architecture. And of course, the other things that I'd just like to say is that it's really a pleasure for us to collaborate with the New York University Fine Arts Institutes and with Princeton University for this kind of events and this kind of research. This is a part of a strategy that the center has developed in the last years to increase this collaboration. And I'm sure that this one with Princeton and Institute of Fine Arts is going to be the first of a longer series. I have just to say also that in this long collaboration process, and that we started some time ago, one of the objective and one of the result of this research will be in the next year, the Canadian Centre and exhibition curated by Jean-Louis, Architecture in Uniform, which has a lot to do with the seminar that we are going to listen today. So I think that perhaps the second step, unless Princeton is able to invent something in between, could be at the Canadian Centre in 2010. Thank you very much.
Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here, and of course, again, my first job is to thank our co-sponsors and collaborators. We couldn't ask in a way for better collaborators, and I think it's particularly important to at this particular moment to look for the potential of synergies when institutions collaborate, and certainly with Mirko Zardini and the CCA in Montreal, and Jean-Louis Cohen on behalf of the Institute of Fine Arts, we really couldn't ask for a better group of collaborators. And of course, thanks in the first instance go to Jean-Louis. He flatters us by calling us co-organizers. Jean-Louis has really done the bulk of the work here, and there's something, Jean-Louis manages to pull off these events and make them look effortless. But I think anybody who's organized any one of these events knows it's never easy, it's never effortless, and the more effort you put in, the easier it is. I think John McEnroe said the more he practiced, the luckier he gets. So I think that's certainly true in Jean-Louis' case. Princeton is involved in part because of a seminar that Jean-Louis taught as a visiting professor a year ago. And again, this seems to me an instance when the seminar structure is working very well, when the students become equal contributors, and when a theme is sort of fleshed out through the dialogue of a seminar, which is, I believe, in part what happened in that course a year ago. PhD studies play a very important role at Princeton. Many of these PhD students are trained as architects, and so they bring a particular perspective as architects to their scholarship. And then on the other hand, the presence of these scholars at Princeton has a huge impact on the culture of the school itself. It sets a very high intellectual bar for the school as a whole. Well, I don't want to take up too much time. Others will comment in depth on the thematic, but looking over the abstracts, there are three things that jump out to me. The first, and perhaps the most obvious, is that any practice placed under the stress of the extreme conditions of wartime reveals something very particular about its structure, its organization, and its history. So there's something to be learned about examining a practice under these extreme conditions of stress. The second point is that looking at architecture and planning in wartime means looking at architecture in particular from a very broad perspective, not only individual buildings, but looking at architecture as infrastructure, as the organization of territory, all of the complex problems of strategy, tactics, and logistics, thinking about the role, for example, of industrial design and production. So again, it seems to me to be a valuable new perspective on architecture. And finally, I think again, when you look at architecture in wartime and under the pressures of extreme conditions of production, you look at architecture as much as a process as an artifact. And again, I think as a kind of methodological lesson to look at architecture much more from the complex process of production and implementation gives an important methodological insight. So welcome and enjoy. I look forward to the day.